Hello, everyone, and welcome
Oh,
to our online info session for Gerontology at Ashton College. My name is Lindsay, and I'm with the Marketing Communications team. Today, I'm joined by several colleagues. We have Lily as our technical host, Maggie from admissions, and Rika is just here watching us, and we have our instructor, Alexandra. Hi, Alexandra. Thanks for joining us.
hi, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Hi. So there are lots of ways to engage with us during the session, and we love hearing your questions. On Zoom, you can use the chat box, Q&A box, or the raise the hand function. If you're tuning in on Facebook Live, you can leave us a comment and we'll be able to answer your questions live during the session. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you can leave us a comment or connect with us by email at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or give us a call at 604-891-1256. We also have a toll-free number, and that's 1-866-759-6006. Awesome. So, could you share with us a little about your experience, your educational background, and what brought you to teaching?
Absolutely. So I completed my Bachelor's of Science in Kinesiology, which then brought me to teaching exercise to older adults in the retirement sector. I then went on to complete my Master's of Science in Gerontology, and now I'm a PhD student studying gerontology as well. Specifically, my doctoral research in gerontology, my PhD is looking at aging with multiple sclerosis. And I began teaching in 2020 with Sheridan College. I'm actually out in the Ontario area, so I'm coming in from remote. And so I began teaching in 2020 at Niagara College or Sheridan College, and then I'm also a researcher at Niagara College as well. I really enjoy teaching, and I've been wanting to teach ever since I was a little girl. It just turns out that teaching specifically has brought me to both research and teaching within the college sector, rather than like the elementary or primary school sector.
That's awesome. I love how you're at so many different places. That's so cool.
I'm everywhere.
So just so we have some context, can you explain what gerontology is?
Absolutely. So gerontology is a study of the social, cultural, psychological, cognitive, and biological aspects of aging. This is not to be confused with geriatrics, which is the medical aspect of aging, and that's like the area where family doctors would specialize beyond regular basic medicine. So gerontology is just that overarching, looking at aging from all of those different perspectives, and it's pretty well-versed definition. But yeah, just don't get it confused with geriatrics.
Awesome. So who would benefit the most by taking the course?
Really, anybody could benefit from taking this course, especially if your field of work includes working with or for older adults. More specified areas that would truly benefit are those who work in healthcare, like nurses, PSWs, occupational therapists, those who are working maybe already in retirement or long-term care, even if they're working in like the programs and sort of the quote unquote fun department. That's kind of where I came from as I was teaching, like I said, the exercises, the bingo, hosting all of those things. And I think a lot of the colleagues that I worked with, even they'd had like courses in gerontology. But it also could be really helpful for individuals who want to broaden their scope within the field. Even like people in customer service, flight attendants, anybody who just want to understand aging, they could really apply the course concepts to their career as well.
Wow, awesome. So could you tell us some of the main topics or just ideas that are covered in the course?
Yeah, so we're looking at covering the theories of aging as well as social issues that are seen. One social issue is stereotyping. Sometimes when we think about older adults, we use words like geezer, miser, stuff like that. And then you see it all over the place. You see it in commercials, you see it in the media. So just one social issue specifically, like I said, is stereotyping. And then we're also going to start critical thinking about other attitudes in aging. We'll also dive into the physical, biological, and social aspects of aging. Look at cultural differences. Cultural differences being, you've got different individuals who believe in aging in place, like aging in the home. Some older adults continue to live with their families, even as there's intergenerational homes, or, is it more acceptable to live in a retirement home or long-term care? We'll also talk about death and dying, and really just give you a broad overview of aging just in general.
Wow, okay. So the course description also mentions the developmental process through which we perceive and experience death. Could you maybe describe that for us and maybe talk about why it's such a taboo subject, it seems, death and dying?
Absolutely. It is really a taboo subject. But I think that that's where, trying to break it down and discuss those concepts and a lot of the theories that we get into talk about what happens for older adults when they hit that point of life. They go through retirement, even the years after retirement. And sort of there's this whole spiritual aspect of it as well. And even like I said, with the cultural differences, death and dying is not just the loss of an individual, it's also celebration of a life. And it's really interesting to think of it in those different perspectives as well.
Awesome. So you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you can say any more about why the study of gerontology is so important.
Well, it's really important because I'm not sure how much everybody understands or knows, but our population is just aging and it's booming. Like our baby boomers are just growing astronomically, and it is such an up and coming concern and topic that I think just general public should be aware of what's going on. And how to work with these individuals in the field. As we see this shift in dynamics and population occurring, we're going to be seeing a lot more older adults. I would just say, even like I said, in general and everywhere, customer service, when and if we're allowed to travel again, those sorts of things too. And so it's going to have a huge implication on our healthcare system. It's going to have a huge implication on housing. And we really don't have all the answers right now. So I think it's really important to have courses like this available so we can start to think critically and think creatively about how we're going to start to care for our aging population.
Do you think it's more important in Western society compared to maybe Southeast Asia society? It's more important that for us here to talk about it because we view the aging population so different here. We don't take care of them like they do in other cultures. Do you think in Western society
Ye-
it's a big deal?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that is sort of what I was alluding to with the cultural differences. We in a Western society typically don't do that intergenerational living as some of the other cultures do around the world. And so it is really important that we do begin to start, like I said, thinking critically, thinking creatively, and just having it more of an open discussion. And so that's why it's also like, comparing it to the stereotypical views of aging and what we see in the movies and what we see in commercials and in the media. Aging is not something to be afraid of. And to be completely honest, we're living so much longer now than we ever were before. I would say probably more like, 50% of your life or more is going to be spent in those older years because of how much longer we are living. So it shouldn't be as taboo as it is seen.
I agree.
So, yeah. And I think even with that, we do talk about retirement and, the typical age of retirement is 65. Well, if we're living till 80 or 90, that's like 20 years on a pension. Who can survive that long? You know, it's a long time to not have a good income and still be expected to pay your way through life. Right. So it's very different in Western culture.
Definitely. Both my parents are in their 60s and neither of them are really close to retiring just because
Exactly.
they're so like they're
Yeah,
so alive still. Why do they need to do that?
exactly. Yeah. And then companies begin to push you out. Right. So yeah, these are all areas that we will be discussing in this course for sure.
Awesome. What do you think students will like most about the course?
Well, not only have I said, the topic is so important, it's so relevant, it's so up and coming. So the topic itself, I think I've covered my bases when I talk about the topic. I feel like I'm pretty enthusiastic, so I think the students will really enjoy being in my course. But I also provide a wide range of teaching methods, and I think that that's the most important part. It is a little tricky when you're online. I mean, I have been teaching in this way now, I guess, since the pandemic hit almost over a year ago. So I'm just trying to be every day, just trying to be so creative with how I teach. And I do use a variety of teaching methods. One of my favorites is breakout sessions and getting students to, when I just hit that random breakout session button and it just kind of puts people in different rooms and getting them to chat and getting them to get to know each other. And then we bring it back to like a larger discussion. And there's so many other things available online like Mentimeter, Google Forms, word clouds and stuff like that, trying to be creative. And so I think that's one of my things I take pride in, is trying to be as fun and creative as I can.
I love word clouds. Being able to visually see it is so cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. So what kind of job opportunities are available for students who specialize in gerontology?
Well, like I said, it really assists almost anybody in any career to expand their current knowledge of aging. And so, like I said, PSWs, nurses, those who even want to work in retirement or long-term care, hospitals, but even just, yeah, customer service, flight attendants. I think it could apply to almost anybody anywhere.
Awesome. I just thought of this question, so if you can't think of an answer, don't worry.
It's okay.
Um, how is it related to palliative care? If that's how you pronounce it, sorry.
Oh, palliative care. Yeah.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. So palliative care is the type of care somebody would receive if they have a condition that is non-treatable or non-curable. And so these are things like cancer or other conditions. We see, there's so many different types. So I don't want to say just cancer, but there are so many different types. And so in palliative care, a lot of the times you do see a lot of older adults and or just the understanding of death and dying in general. And I think there's a lot of the characteristics and the topics that we cover that are very applicable to it's kind of like it's an empathetic way of living, something that we call emotional intelligence, which is having the ability to understand others and be empathetic and put yourself in other people's shoes and not having there's a difference between sympathy and empathy, right? So you don't want to be sympathetic for someone and you just kind of that's very surface. Empathy is actually knowing exactly what they're going through and having that intellectual capability to understand it from that point of view. And so when you look at gerontology and you look at the way that you are beginning to think critically about a population or about a topic, the ways in which that you're thinking about that can be applied to different areas, such as palliative care.
Do you think, since you just mentioned emotional intelligence and being empathetic, do you think someone who needs to work on these skills, do you think the gerontology course might help them out if they don't have those skills in the first place? Do you think it would help them a little bit?
Absolutely, absolutely. Emotional intelligence isn't a learning objective or like a part of the course that we actually talk about, but I think it's sort of embedded subconsciously in the layers of the different modules because you are thinking about things more critically and looking at things from different perspectives, and it's those differing perspectives that kind of encompass what emotional intelligence is.
Perfect. Awesome. So, what are your thoughts on the labor market and the current demand for expertise in gerontology? And you've already touched on this, but just how is it relevant for our aging boomer population?
Well, like I said, the aging population is just growing astronomically and is going to outnumber children under the age of 12 in just a couple more years. So
Wow.
the population has actually done a complete like 180.
Hmm.
And so it's going to be massive. And this is worldwide. So the demand is international for those reasons. And so no matter how you interpret this course or no matter where it is you're going in life, this course will still be a foundation for a lot of different jobs worldwide.
Wow. Awesome. So, how do you think the industry has changed over the years? I know you're relatively new, but I'm sure you talked about the history of the industry in
Yeah.
school.
It is. It was funny because I was thinking about this question earlier, and I was like, I don't know that I can answer this because I'm still pretty young. I mean, I'm not even in the aging population when I teach about it, right? So I think that that's always funny. But I do know that people have said that the industry has changed so much because like the aging population has grown, and so it's for those reasons that nobody knows or understands how it is we're going to sort of solve this complex problem. And so the industry has changed because we need to have more hands on deck. We need to have more minds thinking about the aging population. We need to start thinking about infrastructure. We need to start thinking about finances, the healthcare, everything. And so I think that there's been a shift on um, looking at it from that perspective. And I think that there's been more. When you look at like even research, for example, which I'm in research as well, we have so much more topics and so many more areas that are coming out of it now more than ever before. And I think the practice of gerontology really only came about maybe in the late 80s. When they started, aging, concept of aging have been around for a very long time, and aging itself is not really all that new. But when we look even back 100 years, people only lived to be 30 or 40. So now all of a sudden that's more than doubled. And so it is an ever changing industry for sure.
Awesome. So, are there any ideas or concepts from the practice of gerontology that you've incorporated into your everyday life, or is there anything that you suggest people incorporate into their life?
I think it goes back to like sort of the concepts of emotional intelligence, but also just it's really funny. Ever since I've been in the field of gerontology, which goes back to me just starting out teaching fitness and aqua fitness and bingo and that for older adults at retirement home. Ever since those days, which was probably like maybe 8 to 10 years ago. I feel like I attract older adults now. I feel like, I don't know if it's an attract per se,
Mhm.
but more so of just I get it or I understand it, and I'm able to maybe have those conversations with older adults, or maybe I just don't look at them that way. You know what I mean? And I'm able to I'm just inclusive in that way of being able to have them a part of my everyday life.
Mhm.
So I think for those ways and those reasons, that's sort of how I can see it just, throughout my everyday. I do get not made fun of, but everyone always says to me, "How is it that you always meet all the people, like all the older adults? You just seem to like like your best friends." I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm an old lady at heart. So
And and they can tell that you'll like listen to their
maybe that's
stories. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe that's sort of like a little spell that come out of being in this course, is maybe I'll everybody else will be able to have that same ability.
That's awesome. So what do you think is missing in our current education system along the lines of health and aging?
I think it should be something that's taught in high school, or something that's taught at a much younger age. Because I don't think, I mean, I'm trying to look back, and I mean, I'm not that old either, but I'm trying to look back on when I was in school, and I don't think we were taught about older adults, or,
I
death
don't
and
remember
dying.
either. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like the extent of like even the conversation of death and dying is just if you'd had pets when you were a kid, or if you were around, if you had any losses in your life, but or if there's people out there who don't have grandparents, and vice versa, there's older adults who don't have grandchildren. So I think our current education system is also just missing like an intergenerational component. Really cool. When I worked in a retirement community, I was able to spearhead a program where I started the program of getting the local elementary school, I think it was the grade fours, would come over to the retirement home once a week, and we would buddy them up. It's called Grandpals. And they would
Oh,
sit together. Yeah, it was really cute. And they would sit together with the older adults and get to know each other. And like I said, there was older adults in our building who didn't have grandkids, and there was kids in this grade four class who didn't have grandparents. And so they began to kind of form this bond. And I think that's what's missing in education systems, is that intergenerational. And it goes back to what you said, in the Western world, we don't have those components as much as maybe somebody somewhere else, South Asia, or, South American countries, or anywhere else in the world. They seem to have this more of an intergenerational system, and we don't have that. So I think it's really important that we still incorporate those concepts.
I agree. That'd be great if everyone in elementary school could have
Yeah,
a grand
a
buddy,
grand pal,
a
right?
grand pal. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, so I see that Maggie has joined us, so I am gonna hand the mic off to Maggie before we
Sure.
finish up, and she's gonna just talk about the mission and some other course details.
Hey there,
Awesome. Thank you.
Lindsay. Thanks, Lindsay, and nice to meet you, Alexandra. Wonderful to meet you. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Maggie, admissions officer for the Division of Continuing Education, and Ashton College offers the gerontology course that will give an overview and a basic exploration of both the psychological and social changes that occur from the time of birth through adulthood and old age. The course is live online, and the upcoming start date is on July 7 till September 29. And webinars will be held every Tuesday from 5 till 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The course duration is 13 weeks with a total of 39 hours of instruction. We have no admission requirements. You only need to register. Please visit our website at ashtoncollege.ca under Continuing Education, Human Services courses, and students will also get 10% off the registration fee for the June and August intakes. The discount will be automatically applied upon registration. And we love to hear all your questions out there. Should you have any further inquiries, please email me at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or give me a call at 604-891-1256. That's for now, Lindsay. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Maggie. Perfect. So that did make me remember a question I forgot to ask, actually. Oh, it's still showing me okay. So you talked about how you do breakout rooms, there's word clouds, and all those fun creative ways to participate in class and engage. Are you available in between class, or is there discussion, like a discussion forum for students to talk about in between class? How do you like to do that?
Sorry, so like a discussion for students to like
Or is
answer for a Q&A sort of a thing?
well, like in between class, if people have questions, do you encourage them to talk with each other? Are they able to
Oh,
email you and ask, or how do you like to do that?
oh, absolutely. So I would highly encourage students to email me at any time if they ever have questions. But while I'm teaching, I definitely keep the chat box open and live so that I can continue to monitor and answer questions as they come in. I do also make sure that there is a break during the class. Like during class, we have a break anywhere between a 15-minute to a 30-minute break. Try and gauge what students prefer and give them something that's appropriate. And so during that break, I will be around if they need to, if the other students are leaving, but I can still kind of remain. It's sort of like having a desk, like having a virtual desk, and the students can pop in per se. I know that they're already online, but they can ask me questions. And then even at the end of class, I try to wrap up roughly 20 minutes earlier than normal, just so that I'm available if they still want to ask me questions at that time, or just and even just remain online until the last student leaves. And then I can make sure I've answered all the questions and sort of make a queue of all the students who are online with me still, and then just kind of doing it that way. But yeah, students are highly also encouraged to discuss with each other and get to know each other. And if they want to share in concepts for assignments, or they want to share in concepts about the course, then yeah, reaching out to each other is also the best way to just kind of create that virtual student discussion.
Awesome. And for the course, are you going to have assignments, quizzes, presentations, some mix of
Yes,
everything?
so yeah, I like to do a mix of everything. Like I said, I like to kind of mix it up and keep it interesting. Nothing worse than being in a course where the professor only expects like written papers or just tests. So having some sort of a group project or a little presentations here and there always make it fun, and also gives the students something to look forward to and be a part of.
Awesome.
Sometimes it taking it off my hands every now and then, and having students present is fun. So
Definitely, I agree. I had a question for you. Oh, I forgot. So I have another question. Just 1 second. So how is there anything students can do beforehand to ensure they succeed in the course or they get the most out of the course?
So hopefully, so we are having the textbook looked into and potentially reviewed, but when that textbook is released, maybe making sure you have that textbook on hand and looking into some of the concepts. Nothing worse than, taking a course and being completely blindsided by what I'm going to be potentially teaching, or vice versa. I mean, like I said, I'm a PhD student myself, so I like to also make sure that I know what I'm expecting before that course begins. And just setting yourself up for success, making sure you've got a calendar where you can keep all your deadlines in order. Making sure you take the time if you need to get to know me, if you have any accommodations that I need to be aware of, any accessibility, anything like that, just making sure that it's open book, open communication, and set yourself up for success.
Speaking on that, how many hours, other than the live webinar, how many hours a week do you think they should set aside?
Probably somewhere between 3 to 4 hours a week on the side. If there's any sort of little projects, quizzes, coursework, or readings, then making sure you've kind of got, 3 to 4 hours would be enough.
Perfect. So do you have any final words of advice or thoughts to share with everyone before I wrap up the session and go to Q&A?
Just that I hope to see everybody there, and I'm excited to start.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have, Lily, do we have a question? If she's paying attention. Oh, I see something in the chat. Oh, here we go. So I have will this course cover prevention strategies for a variety of mental health conditions and substance misuse among older adults? Do you want me to re-say that? Or
I was going to say, it's in the chat, right? I think I can read it. Yeah. Okay.
I was like,
will this course, sorry, I have to read it again. Will this course cover prevention strategies for a variety? I hadn't had it in the course outline itself, but it's not something that I wouldn't say no to. Always open if students have questions or they have things that they maybe want to learn more about, then I can always make a list. And then if and when we have time throughout the weeks of the course, we can always embed like a new concept, because I would totally be open to looking into other areas and just kind of like throw them in. It's always an interest of mine too, is to learn. If I can learn new things too, that's always cool. So
perfect. That's a great answer. Yeah. But if what people want to learn, if they tell you, then you'll do your research, as all us researchers like to do.
totally.
Okay, well, that was my last question, and that was a great question from the audience. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you have any questions for Maggie, feel free to email her at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or give her a call at 604-891-1256. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye.